What would you do if a routine traffic stop ended with someone inside the White House, asking for the name of the man sitting in the back of a police car? It sounds impossible, doesn't it? Most people would never believe a story like this could happen. But on one quiet afternoon, a single decision made by one police officer started a chain of events that no one on that highway would ever forget. The strangest part: the man at the center of it never argued, never shouted, and never tried to prove who he was. He simply waited, as if he already knew the truth would arrive on its own. The afternoon sun hung low over a busy highway just outside the city. Cars moved steadily in both directions, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Families were driving home, delivery trucks filled the right lane, and people hurried toward another normal evening. Then flashing blue lights suddenly broke the peaceful traffic. A sleek black luxury sedan slowly pulled onto the shoulder. The driver didn't speed away. He didn't look nervous. He calmly turned off the engine, lowered his window, and rested both hands on the steering wheel. Inside sat Ethan Brooks. He wore a simple navy sweater, dark jeans, and an ordinary wristwatch. There were no expensive rings, no designer sunglasses, and nothing about him suggested great wealth. Anyone driving past would have thought he was just another businessman heading home after work. Officer Ryan Carter stepped out of his patrol car with quick, confident steps. He had worked traffic enforcement for years and believed he could judge a person within seconds. As he walked toward the sedan, he looked Ethan up and down before saying a single word. License and registration. Ethan reached for his wallet slowly. Of course, officer. His voice was calm. Respectful. Almost too calm. Officer Carter looked at the driver's license, then back at Ethan. Where are you coming from? A business meeting. What kind of business? Ethan smiled politely. Just meetings. The answer sounded simple, but it somehow annoyed the officer. You'll need to be more specific than that. I travel quite a bit for work. Again. A polite answer. But not the answer the officer wanted. He looked around the inside of the car. Everything was spotless. No clutter. No luggage. No suspicious items. Just a leather notebook on the passenger seat and a small black phone resting quietly in the center console. Something about Ethan's peaceful expression bothered him. Most drivers became uncomfortable after only a few questions. Some apologized. Others talked too much. Ethan did neither. He simply waited. Officer Carter narrowed his eyes. You seem awfully relaxed. Ethan looked directly at him. I've learned that staying calm usually helps everyone. For some reason, those words made the officer even more suspicious. He walked back to his patrol car and began checking Ethan's information through dispatch. The response should have taken only a few seconds. Instead, the dispatcher suddenly stopped talking. 5 long seconds passed. Then 10. Officer Carter frowned and picked up the radio again. Dispatch, did you receive the driver's information? The dispatcher finally answered. But her voice sounded completely different. Quiet. Careful. Almost nervous. Unit 12. She paused. Then asked a question that made no sense at all. Officer, can you please confirm the driver's full name one more time? Officer Ryan Carter looked at the radio in confusion. Dispatch had never sounded like that before. It was almost as if someone had interrupted the operator in the middle of speaking. He pressed the button again. Dispatch, I already sent his information. A few seconds passed before the reply came. I understand, officer. Please read the driver's full name one more time. Ryan looked down at the license. Ethan Brooks. The radio went silent again. This time, the silence lasted even longer. Ryan slowly lowered the microphone. What is going on? He muttered. Across the road, Ethan remained exactly where he had been from the beginning. His hands rested on the steering wheel. He wasn't looking at his phone. He wasn't watching the officer. Instead, he quietly looked at the open road ahead, as if the delay didn't bother him at all. That calm attitude only made Ryan more suspicious. He walked back to the car. Step out of the vehicle. Without saying a word, Ethan opened the door and stepped onto the shoulder. Passing drivers slowed down to watch. The afternoon wind moved gently through the trees. Everything felt strangely quiet. Is there a problem, officer? Ethan asked. I'm still trying to figure that out. Ethan nodded. I understand. Ryan expected questions. He expected frustration. Maybe even an argument. Instead, nothing. The man simply stood there with complete patience. Ryan walked around the luxury sedan. The license plate matched. The registration matched. The insurance was valid. The vehicle wasn't reported stolen. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. His eyes stopped on the small black phone lying inside the center console. Unlike ordinary phones, it had no company logo. Its protective case looked stronger than anything Ryan had seen before. "What kind of business meeting were you coming from?" Ryan asked again. Ethan smiled politely. "I meet with different people." "What people?" "People solving important problems." Ryan folded his arms. "You like giving half answers." "I only answer what's asked." Before Ryan could respond, the black phone suddenly lit up. The screen displayed only one word. "Secure line." The phone vibrated once. Then stopped. Ethan never touched it. "Aren't you going to answer?" Ryan asked. Ethan calmly shook his head. "If it's truly important, they'll try again." Ryan couldn't explain why, but those words made him even more uncomfortable. At that exact moment, another patrol car pulled onto the shoulder. Officer Melissa Grant stepped out. She looked at Ryan. "Need some help?" Ryan nodded. "Something about this doesn't feel right." Melissa looked at Ethan. He greeted her politely. She smiled back without thinking. There was nothing threatening about him. Nothing aggressive. If anything, he seemed unusually respectful. Just then, Ryan's radio crackled again. This time it wasn't dispatch. It was his shift supervisor. "Officer Carter." Ryan immediately answered. "Yes, sir." The supervisor's voice sounded unusually serious. "Do not transport the driver until I arrive." Ryan frowned. "Why?" The supervisor hesitated. "I'm on my way." "Sir, what's going on?" Another pause. Then came 6 words Ryan never expected to hear. "Someone very important is asking about him." Ryan slowly looked back at Ethan. The quiet man simply stood beside his car, watching the clouds drift across the afternoon sky. He wasn't worried. He wasn't impatient. Almost as if he already knew exactly who was coming next. Officer Ryan Carter slowly lowered the radio. His supervisor's last words kept repeating in his mind. "Someone very important is asking about him." He looked back at Ethan. The quiet man hadn't moved an inch. He stood beside his car with the same calm expression he had worn since the flashing lights first appeared behind him. There was no fear in his eyes. No anger. No frustration. Just patience. Ryan had stopped hundreds of drivers over the years. Some became nervous. Some became defensive. Some tried to explain themselves before he even asked a question. Ethan did none of those things. That calmness no longer looked ordinary. It looked intentional. Ryan walked toward him again. "Mr. Brooks, is there something you haven't told me?" Ethan looked at the officer for a moment before answering. "I've answered every question you've asked." Ryan frowned. "Then why does my supervisor suddenly want me to wait?" "I couldn't tell you." "You really don't know?" Ethan gave a small smile. "I don't make assumptions." Those words somehow made Ryan even more uncomfortable. Officer Melissa Grant quietly watched the conversation. Something about Ethan didn't match the picture Ryan had formed in his mind. He wasn't trying to escape. He wasn't making excuses. He wasn't asking for special treatment. He simply waited. A black SUV drove past the traffic stop. Its passengers looked toward Ethan for only a second before continuing down the highway. Ryan noticed Ethan watching the vehicle disappear into the distance. "You know them?" Ryan asked. Ethan slowly shook his head. "I know people like them." That answer raised even more questions. Before Ryan could ask another one, his radio came alive again. "Unit 12. This is Carter. Update." Ryan looked at Ethan. "Driver is cooperative. No problems." There was another pause. Then the dispatcher quietly asked, "Is he still there?" Ryan blinked. "What kind of question is that? Please answer." "Yes, he's still here." The dispatcher let out what sounded like a small sigh of relief. "Good." Ryan's heartbeat quickened. Nothing about this situation made sense anymore. He looked back at Ethan. "Who exactly are you?" For the first time, Ethan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked across the highway where traffic continued flowing as if nothing unusual was happening. Finally, he spoke. "I'm someone who prefers not to be noticed." Ryan almost laughed. "Well, today that didn't work." Ethan smiled politely. "No. I suppose it didn't." Just then, the sound of approaching sirens echoed in the distance. Ryan turned toward the highway. His supervisor's patrol vehicle was coming fast. But it wasn't alone. Behind it were two dark government SUVs with heavily tinted windows. They weren't using flashing lights. They weren't marked as police vehicles. Yet every driver on the highway instinctively moved aside to let them pass. Officer Melissa quietly whispered, "Those aren't local units." Ryan nodded slowly. "I know." The convoy slowed as it reached the traffic stop. His supervisor stepped out first. But instead of walking toward Ryan, he walked straight toward Ethan. Then, to Ryan's complete shock, his supervisor reached out his hand and greeted Ethan with quiet respect. "Mr. Brooks," he said. "I'm sorry for the unexpected delay." Ryan felt the color drain from his face. If his own supervisor knew Ethan personally, then who had he really pulled over? And why were two government SUVs stopping behind them as if someone inside had come specifically for one quiet man? Ryan Carter stood frozen as his supervisor shook Ethan Brooks's hand with genuine respect. It wasn't a quick greeting. It wasn't forced. It looked like the kind of handshake shared between two people who trusted each other. "I'm sorry for the delay, Mr. Brooks," the supervisor said. "I wasn't expecting this situation." Ethan gave a small smile. "These things happen." Ryan couldn't believe what he was hearing. Only minutes ago, he had treated Ethan like someone hiding the truth. Now his own supervisor was apologizing to him. Ryan stepped forward. "Sir, you know this man." The supervisor looked at Ryan for a moment before answering. "I know enough to tell you that we need to handle this very carefully." That wasn't the answer Ryan wanted. It only created another mystery. Officer Melissa quietly watched the conversation. She could feel the mood changing. No one was speaking loudly anymore. Every word was careful. Every movement seemed planned. The two dark government SUVs remained parked behind the patrol cars. Their engines stayed running, but no one stepped out. Ryan looked toward the tinted windows. "Who's inside those vehicles?" His supervisor calmly replied, "People who don't like waiting." Ryan felt a chill run through him. He looked back at Ethan. The quiet man didn't seem impressed by the SUVs. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He simply stood with his hands folded, as if he had seen scenes like this many times before. Then Ethan's secure phone vibrated again. This time, he glanced at the screen. Only for a second. Then he locked it without answering. Ryan couldn't hold back any longer. "If someone this important keeps calling you, why won't you answer?" Ethan looked at him. "Because I'm exactly where I need to be." Ryan frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means this conversation comes first." Those words left Ryan speechless. Who would ignore important calls while standing beside a highway? Unless the caller already knew where he was. Before Ryan could think any further, one of the SUV doors slowly opened. A man in a dark suit stepped out. He wasn't wearing a police uniform. He wasn't carrying a badge around his neck. But the moment Ryan's supervisor saw him, he immediately stood straighter. The suited man walked directly toward Ethan. "Good afternoon, Mr. Brooks." "Good afternoon. I hope everything has remained professional." Ethan answered honestly. There was some confusion. The suited man nodded. "We'll take care of the rest." Ryan noticed something unusual. Nobody introduced Ethan. Nobody asked him for identification. Everyone already knew exactly who he was. The suited man turned toward Ryan. His voice remained polite. "Officer Carter, thank you for remaining at the scene." Ryan nodded. "Can someone please tell me what's happening?" The man smiled slightly. "In a few moments everything will make sense." Ryan had heard enough mysterious answers for one day. He was about to ask another question when every phone inside the group rang at the exact same time. Ryan looked down at his own phone. Unknown government number. His supervisor's phone rang too. So did the suited man's. Even Ethan's secure phone began vibrating again. For a brief second, no one answered. Everyone simply looked at one another. Then the suited man checked his screen. His calm expression changed. He slowly lifted his eyes toward Ethan. "Sir." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "You have a direct call from the White House." The entire highway seemed to fall silent. Ryan's heart skipped a beat. The White House? Calling the quiet man he had pulled over? Who exactly was Ethan Brooks, and why did someone inside the most powerful building in the country know his name? The words seemed to hang in the air. "You have a direct call from the White House." For a moment, nobody moved. Officer Ryan Carter looked from the suited man to Ethan Brooks, hoping someone would explain that this was all a mistake. But no one laughed. No one looked confused. Instead, every member of the government team quietly stepped back, giving Ethan room to answer the call. Ryan's heart began to race. This couldn't be happening. Just 20 minutes earlier, he had believed Ethan was simply another driver who wasn't telling the whole truth. Now, the White House was calling him by name. The suited man respectfully handed Ethan a secure phone. "Sir." Ethan accepted it with a calm smile. "Thank you." He placed the phone against his ear. "Good afternoon." His voice never changed. It was the same calm voice Ryan had heard from the beginning. No excitement. No nervousness. Just quiet confidence. No one around him could hear the person on the other end of the call. The highway had become strangely silent. Even passing drivers slowed down, trying to understand why several government vehicles had surrounded one ordinary-looking sedan. After listening for a few moments, Ethan finally spoke. "Yes, everything is under control." Another pause. "I appreciate your concern." Ryan couldn't stop staring. Whoever was speaking clearly knew Ethan well. This wasn't the conversation of strangers. Ethan listened again before smiling. "No, there won't be any delays." A few more quiet seconds passed. Then he said something that made Ryan's stomach tighten. "I'll see you shortly." The call ended. Ethan calmly handed the phone back. "Thank you." The suited man nodded respectfully. "My pleasure, sir." Ryan finally found his voice. Who was that?" Ethan looked at him. It was someone checking on today's schedule. Ryan almost laughed. "Someone?" He pointed toward the secure phone. That wasn't just someone. Before Ethan could answer, Ryan's supervisor quietly stepped beside him. "Officer." Ryan looked at him. "I think it's time you understood something." Ryan waited. "Mr. Brooks isn't just attending today's meeting." Ryan frowned. "Then why is everyone treating him like this?" His supervisor took a slow breath. "Because today's meeting cannot begin without him." Ryan stared at Ethan. The answer only created another mystery. Why would the White House wait for one quiet businessman? What kind of meeting depended on his arrival? At that moment, one of the government SUVs received another radio message. The suited agent listened carefully before walking straight back to Ethan. "Sir." "Yes. They've confirmed every attendee has arrived." Ethan nodded. "Good. But..." The agent hesitated. "They're asking whether the briefing should begin without you." Ryan noticed something unexpected. Instead of answering immediately, Ethan looked toward the highway where families, truck drivers, and commuters were slowly passing by. Then he quietly said, "No." The agent looked surprised. "They can wait a few more minutes." Without asking another question, the agent immediately relayed Ethan's decision. Ryan couldn't believe what he was hearing. An important government briefing was being delayed because one quiet man was still standing beside a highway. Ryan looked at Ethan with completely different eyes now. He no longer wondered whether Ethan was important. He wondered something far bigger. What kind of person has the power to make people inside the White House wait, without anyone questioning the decision? Ryan Carter felt as if the ground beneath him had disappeared. Only half an hour earlier, he had believed Ethan Brooks was hiding something. Now he was watching government officials quietly wait for Ethan's next decision. Nothing about this afternoon made sense anymore. Ryan looked at his supervisor. "Sir, who is he?" His supervisor glanced at Ethan before answering. "I think Mr. Brooks should tell you himself." Ryan turned toward Ethan. The quiet man smiled politely. "I'd rather finish today's situation first." That answer was calm, respectful, and somehow, it made Ryan even more curious. Just then, another black SUV arrived behind the convoy. Unlike the others, this one carried no official markings at all. The driver stepped out holding a thin black briefcase. He walked directly toward Ethan. "Good afternoon, sir." "Good afternoon. The updated documents you requested." "Thank you." Ethan accepted the briefcase and opened it. Inside were several folders, each marked confidential. Ryan couldn't see the pages, but he noticed something unusual. Every person standing nearby waited silently for Ethan to review them. Even the suited agents avoided interrupting him. After reading for nearly a minute, Ethan removed a single page and handed it to the government official. "This route isn't safe anymore." The man looked surprised. "Our team approved it this morning." "I know." Ethan pointed to a small section of the map. "But traffic conditions changed less than 20 minutes ago." The official studied the document. His eyes widened. I didn't notice that. Ethan smiled. That's why we check everything twice. Without asking another question, the official immediately spoke into his radio. Update the travel route. Use Plan Charlie. Within seconds, every security vehicle began changing positions. Ryan watched in disbelief. Nobody argued. Nobody questioned Ethan's decision. His recommendation became the new plan immediately. Officer Melissa quietly whispered, "They trust him more than anyone else here." Ryan slowly nodded. "I can see that." The highway slowly returned to normal as traffic continued moving. Families drove past without realizing they were witnessing something extraordinary. To them, it was just another traffic stop. Only the people standing on the shoulder knew the truth. Ryan looked back at Ethan. "You've planned all of this before, haven't you?" Ethan gave a small smile. "For many years." "How many?" "A long time." Before Ryan could ask another question, his supervisor's phone rang. He answered quickly. "Yes, sir." His expression became serious. "I understand." He ended the call and walked straight toward Ethan. "They've asked me to tell you something." Ethan looked up. "What is it?" "The White House has moved today's meeting back by 30 minutes. Ryan frowned. "They actually changed the schedule." His supervisor nodded. "They said the meeting begins when Mr. Brooks walks into the room." Ryan could hardly believe those words. Important leaders, senior officials, government advisors, all waiting for one quiet man wearing a simple navy sweater. Ryan finally understood one thing. This wasn't about money. It wasn't about expensive cars. It wasn't even about power. It was about trust. But one question still remained unanswered. Ryan took a deep breath and looked Ethan in the eyes. "Mr. Brooks. If the White House knows you personally." He paused. "Who are you really?" For the first time that afternoon, Ethan looked at him with a thoughtful smile. "I suppose," he said quietly, "it's finally time you knew." And with those words, the biggest secret of the entire day was about to be revealed. Ryan Carter stood completely still. For the first time that afternoon, every question he had asked was finally about to be answered. Ethan looked around at the small group gathered on the roadside. The government officials. The police officers. His supervisor. Everyone was waiting. Then Ethan spoke. "My name is Ethan Brooks." Ryan nodded. "I know that." Ethan smiled. "But you don't know what I do." He gently closed the briefcase and continued. "I founded Brooks Global Systems nearly 20 years ago." Ryan frowned. The name sounded familiar. Before he could remember where he had heard it, Ethan continued. "Our company builds secure communication networks, emergency response systems, and critical technology used by hospitals, airports, and government agencies across the country." Ryan's eyes widened. He had seen that company name on television many times. It was one of the largest technology companies in America. Officer Melissa quietly whispered, "That's the company worth billions." Ryan slowly looked back at Ethan. The quiet man in the simple sweater. The man he had questioned for nearly an hour. Was the billionaire founder of one of the country's most successful companies. But Ethan wasn't finished. "A few years ago, I was invited to help advise several federal projects involving emergency communications and national infrastructure." Ryan listened carefully. "I don't work for the government." Ethan smiled. "I simply help when I'm asked." The suited government official nodded. "And we've asked many times." A small silence followed. Ryan finally understood why everyone respected Ethan. It wasn't because of his money. It wasn't because of his company. It was because people trusted his judgment. Just then, Ethan's secure phone vibrated once again. He glanced at the screen. This time, he answered immediately. "Hello." He listened quietly. Then smiled. "Yes, Mr. President." Ryan's heart nearly stopped. The words were spoken so naturally. As if they had spoken many times before. Nobody interrupted. Nobody moved. Even the highway noise seemed to disappear. After a short conversation, Ethan replied, "I'll be there shortly." He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. Ryan looked at him in disbelief. "You know the president personally?" Ethan answered honestly. "We've worked together on several national projects." Ryan struggled to find the right words. I had no idea." Ethan looked at him kindly. "I know." Ryan lowered his eyes. "I judged you the moment I saw you." Ethan didn't argue. He simply nodded. "It happens more often than you might think." Those words carried no anger. Only quiet honesty. Ryan expected Ethan to demand an apology. He expected him to be upset. Instead, Ethan asked a simple question. "Officer Carter." Ryan looked up. "If our roles had been reversed today." He paused for a moment. "How would you have wanted to be treated?" Ryan couldn't answer. Because he already knew. Respect should never depend on appearance. Before anyone spoke again, Ethan's assistant hurried over from one of the SUVs carrying a digital tablet. "Sir." Ethan turned. "We've received another update." He studied the screen for only a few seconds. His calm expression suddenly became serious again. The government official noticed immediately. "What happened?" Ethan slowly looked toward the highway stretching into the distance. "The meeting at the White House isn't the biggest problem anymore." Everyone stared at him. He took a slow breath before quietly saying, "Someone has just reported a security issue, much closer than anyone expected." In an instant, every member of the security team reached for their radios. Ryan realized the biggest reveal of the day had happened. Yet somehow, the most important challenge was only beginning. The moment Ethan spoke those words, the entire mood on the roadside changed. "Someone has just reported a security issue, much closer than anyone expected." Every security officer reached for a radio. The relaxed conversations disappeared. Within seconds, the team began checking the area with calm, practiced movements. They weren't running. They weren't shouting. They simply became more alert. Officer Ryan Carter watched in silence. Only an hour earlier, he believed Ethan Brooks was just another driver. Now, everyone was waiting for Ethan's next instruction. The senior government agent stepped closer. "Sir, the report came from our advance team." Ethan nodded. "What exactly did they find?" "They noticed unusual activity near the entrance of today's meeting location." Ryan looked confused. "Does that mean someone is in danger?" Ethan answered honestly. "We don't know yet." "Then why not continue as planned?" Ethan looked toward the highway before replying. "Because guessing has never protected anyone." Ryan quietly lowered his head. Every answer Ethan gave sounded simple. But every answer carried years of experience. The government agent opened a digital map on his tablet. "We've identified 3 possible routes." He handed the tablet to Ethan. Without saying a word, Ethan carefully studied each road. His eyes moved from one street to another. Then he gently tapped a different route. "This one." The agent looked surprised. "That's the longest route." Ethan smiled. "It's the safest." Without another question, the agent immediately spoke into his radio. "Change to Route 4. One by one, every SUV adjusted its position. The governor's travel plan changed again. Ryan couldn't believe what he was watching. An entire security operation had just changed because Ethan pointed to a different road on a map. Officer Melissa whispered, "Nobody even questioned him." Ryan nodded. "They don't need to." At that moment, Ethan's secure phone vibrated once more. He looked at the screen. The caller ID displayed only 2 words. "Secure Office." Ethan answered. "Hello." He listened quietly for several moments. His expression remained calm, but Ryan noticed something different. Ethan's eyes became more focused. Finally, he spoke. "Thank you for letting me know." A short pause followed. "I'll adjust the schedule." The call ended. Ryan couldn't stay quiet any longer. "Is everything all right?" Ethan looked at him. "It will be. You sound very certain." "I'm prepared." Those 2 words stayed with Ryan. Prepared. Not lucky. Not powerful. Prepared. That explained everything. The calm voice. The careful decisions. The confidence without arrogance. Ethan had spent years preparing for moments exactly like this. Just then, another government official hurried over carrying a sealed envelope. "Sir." Ethan accepted it. "What's this?" "It arrived from Washington only a few minutes ago." Ryan noticed the official's hands. They were shaking slightly. Ethan opened the envelope and silently read the first page. His calm smile slowly disappeared. The senior agent looked worried. "Is the information confirmed?" Ethan slowly nodded. "Yes." "What does it say?" For a brief moment, Ethan looked toward the horizon before answering. "It changes today's mission completely." Ryan felt his heartbeat quicken. He thought the biggest mystery had already been solved. He was wrong. Ethan carefully folded the document and looked at the security team. "We're no longer protecting just one meeting." He paused. "We're protecting someone else as well." Every officer exchanged confused looks. Ryan took one step forward. "Who?" Ethan met his eyes. The answer, he said quietly, is waiting for us at the White House. The convoy arrived at the White House just as the evening sun began to fade. Security officers guided every vehicle through the gates with quiet precision. Ryan Carter had never imagined he would stand outside one of the most secure buildings in the country because of a traffic stop. Ethan stepped out of the SUV, but before he could walk inside, a senior White House official came down the steps to greet him. "Mr. Brooks," he said warmly. "We've been waiting for you." Ryan watched in complete disbelief. Nobody was treating Ethan like a guest. They treated him like someone whose presence truly mattered. The official turned to Ethan with a serious expression. "The president has already been briefed." Ethan nodded. "Good. Let's begin." As they started walking toward the entrance, Ethan suddenly stopped and looked back at Ryan. "Officer Carter." Ryan immediately stepped forward. "Yes, sir." Ethan smiled. "I hope today reminds you that the first impression is rarely the full story." Ryan lowered his eyes. "It will. I'll never forget it." Ethan gave a respectful nod before disappearing through the doors of the White House. Ryan stood there silently, believing the story was finally over. But at that exact moment, Ethan's secure phone vibrated again. He glanced at the message. His calm expression instantly changed. Only 4 words appeared on the screen: "There's been another breach." Ethan immediately turned around. And everyone knew the day wasn't over yet. Ethan quickly showed the message to the senior security team. Within seconds, they confirmed it wasn't a direct threat but a precaution about a possible security concern near another government building. The meeting continued after the area was carefully checked and declared safe. An hour later, Ethan walked out of the White House with the same quiet smile he had worn all day. As he passed Officer Ryan Carter, he stopped one last time. "I hope today changed more than your opinion of me," Ethan said. Ryan nodded without hesitation. "It changed the way I'll treat every person I meet." Ethan smiled. Then today was worth it. As Ethan's car disappeared through the White House gates, Ryan realized the biggest lesson had nothing to do with money, power, or important connections. It was about respect. You never truly know a person's story by looking at their clothes, their car, or the color of their skin. Character is revealed through actions, not appearances. What would you have done if you were Officer Carter? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this hidden identity story filled with suspense, justice, and unforgettable twists, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next powerful story.